the 2-7 in the West. Injuries, Jimmy Butler, pelvic contusion, freak accident, injury. Amin Thompson falls into him, is tripped into him. Jimmy, hard fall, tried to stay in there. He's done as the hat is flipped back the right way. We're not talking about Atlantic Division foes anymore. Golden State punched first. Houston took the punch and punched back. Jimmy's status will determine a lot. But what have been your thoughts about this series and your overreactions from the series?
Well, so this is one where Gil and I were supposed to record yesterday, but other scheduling conflicts got in the way and pushed it back to Thursday. So we were able to see all the other game twos play out. And my overreaction that I had written down was the Warriors are going to the Western Conference Finals. And that changes real quick.
Scheduling conflict saved you.
Yes, scheduling conflict saved me. That changes real quick because I think it was Fred VanVleet that supposedly said it last night. Someone heard him say it on the court. You better hope Jimmy comes back.
Yep.
And that changes everything. And I don't think it was a dirty play from Amin Thompson. I think he got pushed. Just kind of an unfortunate situation that Jimmy Butler landed on his tailbone. You know him. He's going to try and play through anything. We've seen him play through knee injuries, ankle injuries. We've seen him try. But the reality is, like, playing through it is one thing. Being able to contribute is another thing. And being able to contribute at the level that they need him to is another thing. Because, I mean, we saw it last night. Like, it was more of what we saw from the Warriors in the beginning of the year where teams, I mean, the Rockets were literally throwing two bodies with one and a help, like, any single time that Steph touched the ball. And even coming off screens, everything like that, they're bumping him. There's still two guys with him. Like, it was nonstop. And it's because you don't have to worry about basically anybody else on that floor offensively. And you saw Jonathan Kuminga step back into the rotation. And they were hoping to get a little bit of an, some juice offensively from him. But, like, kind of like we were just saying, like, you can't rely on those guys every single night. And teams like the Rockets are going to be able to load up on Steph, and it's going to make his life real difficult. And if Jimmy's not even at 50%, 60%, like whatever it is, like, even if he's trying to play through it, like, can he make the same level impact that he was making before that was making this team look so dangerous that I was confident in saying they're going to the Western Conference Finals? All of a sudden we got a series again. It was awesome to see Jalen Green get going like that. We haven't seen Fred get going yet. Amin Thompson is doing so much on the defensive end that it's kind of cannibalized what he's doing on the offensive end. I'm really impressed with what we've seen from Alperen Şengün so far. The Rockets are for real. They're here. And all of a sudden that series is real interesting after that Jimmy Butler injury.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And this is kind of what I expected the series to be like. I think it's interesting, the physicality, the brand of chippiness that they're really marketing with this series. And I kind of expected it. And that's what I thought. That's why I leaned with Houston coming into it. I won't use the verbatim quote, but when I was at Brewster Academy a long time ago, our coach used to say, players play and complainers complain. If you can get what he probably said. And I think that that's interesting because there's been a lot of complaining about the physicality more so from Warriors fans than the Warriors. But like you mentioned, throwing the two bodies, the physicality, that stuff is kind of what I expected coming to this series. And if Jimmy is not playing or Jimmy is limited, that takes a massive edge from Golden State. Draymond has it to a certain extent, but again, like he has to keep that kind of channeled in a certain way to where he can use that to do the things that Draymond Green does really well. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. And as far as Houston, we keep sliding back and forth on what they should do. And do they consolidate some talent to bring somebody else in? I think I'm back, and maybe this is an overreaction because I was, or just a reaction to me changing my mind. I was of the belief that, okay, maybe they do make a big deal after this year, just, whatever. But I think that now seeing Jalen Green do what he did in game 2, you stay put. You kind of let this ride out. You give time for Jalen Green to kind of become the guy if he is the guy. I still think Amin Thompson is going to be the guy with time. But then just, maybe you wait till the deadline or something like that. But just wait it out. I know they said that's what they're going to do anyway. But now I see why the importance of that, whether they make a playoff run or not. I think it's really important for Houston to just keep it together and see where it goes.
Yeah, I've been saying it all year, man. Like, this team, the ceiling is as high as Jalen Green takes it. And like when he has performances like he did last night, he had a swagger going. You could see he was confident. I mean, the dude took like 18 threes or something like that. But like in the flow, like it looks crazy on a box score, but like in the flow of the game, like they didn't seem that forced. That like he had a hot hand. Anytime that he got a favorable matchup in isolation, he was willing to try and take his chances there, and they were falling a lot more than they weren't. So, really impressive performance. But, the biggest thing with him in his entire career really is that he's never been able to string together multiple games that do the same thing. Like, can he do this again in game 3 in the Bay? Like, that's going to be a rocking environment. He talked about how the floor felt bigger and the crowd felt louder and the legs were shaky. Lights felt brighter in game 1, which is like, it's totally normal to admit that and announce that in like, it was his first career playoff game. It was for 3 of the 5 starters. And I think it's like 6 of their guys in their rotation or something like that. But, can you now calibrate yourself the way that you did for game 2 for your first road playoff game? Yeah. And I know it's not Roracle. I know it's not like the way that it used to be, but it's still a rocking environment, man. Yeah. Like especially at 1-1, Warriors fans know what's at stake. They've been here before. They're going to bring it, especially with an inexperienced team on the other end. So he's the player who every game in the series, I'm very curious to see what version of him shows up, but specifically in game 3, can you give the Rockets somewhere in between what you did in game 1 and what you did in game 2? Because that's kind of where Houston needs him to be in order to get to where they want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we'll see kind of, and it's really hard to predict based on just what we know about him. And again, it's just being so early in his playoff career. And it's funny to think back to guys who we've had similar conversations about and different types of paths. It is difficult. You think about like a Shea, right? His playoff debut, he was a role player for a very pesky Clippers team, whereas it's really hard to your first playoff. You are relied upon to be that guy, and you're learning these things in real time. So I have faith in him. I have faith in the Rockets. So I picked him before. I'm not changing my mind on that. And it's funny how things work out that we end up and finish this off by talking Lakers, Timberwolves. Timberwolves come out, hit them first. Lakers said they weren't prepared for physicality. Game 2, Lakers hit back. And I think maybe this is an overreaction, and it is an overreaction. Through 2 games, I have felt confident and better about Minnesota. Like Minnesota, like they dropped the ball in game 2 and they weren't very good. They weren't sharp, and the Lakers took advantage. But that said, despite foul trouble, despite not being sharp, there were a couple moments where Minnesota could have turned the corner and gotten back in there with LA. So I think, and again, it's hard. It's a 3-6 matchup. These teams finish like a game or 2 apart in the standings. So it's just a matchup. But that being said, I think that just what the Lakers do, what Timberwolves do, styles make fights. And I think that makes for such an intriguing matchup, which we said coming into it.
Yeah, I had 2 things. One, Rudy Gobert has been defending his ass off in isolation.
He has been.
And that's with the entire crowd behind Luka trying to get him on a highlight. Like it almost feels like that is the number one goal of like Luka and the crowd is to put Rudy Gobert on a highlight. And I know that's not actually the case. He just likes that matchup and he thinks that he can, go to work there. But I've been really impressed with the way that Rudy's been defending him in isolation. The other thing that has really stuck out to me in this series, and I don't know if you've had this thought at any point while you're watching these games, the Lakers really got the Hornets to accept that trade, and then they said, actually, we couldn't use Mark Williams. We don't need him, or something about it.
That must have been some bad records. It had to have been bad.
The guy was playing. But the guy has played, like he was playing in games in the second half of the season and still making an impact. Yeah. Like, I just don't understand. Like, I'm watching these games and I'm watching Jackson Hayes, who has played himself off the floor 2 games in a row now. Like, you really sat there and went, no, we really need that future draft pick more than we could use Mark Williams right now. Mark Williams had a great season. And I really was impressed with the way that he even played in the second half of the year. He was taking nights off. He was in the lineup one night, out of the lineup the other night, not because he was hurt, just because that's how it goes for tanking teams at the end of the season. And he even had like a little Q&A on Twitter at one point where like Lakers fans were like asking him about it. He's like, I didn't miss a single game all year to my foot, like that, which is like the reported injury about why the physical failed. Like, it blows my mind. It's a situation that it feels like we've gotten a little bit more closure on the Luka Doncic trade in terms of like Nico Harrison pressers that he shouldn't be doing and in stories that like, Mavs reporters are writing, like we're finding out more details there. Mm-hmm. What the hell happened with Mark Williams? Because they could use him right now.
I think this comes to real fire. And this is the only logical explanation. And we will revisit this maybe sometime in June, maybe sometime in July. Pelinka's got to have something up his sleeve. He's got to have something up his sleeve where he was like, you know what? We could be good right now with this deal, but we can find something and we can justify it based on Williams having a checkered history. We can get this voided because I just realized that in July, I don't know who it is, but there's something up their sleeve. And if they don't have that and we revisit this and they don't make that move, then I'm like, okay, you guys should have just done the deal. But there's some lob threat that the Lakers are going to make a play for this offseason, and a guy who is an even better fit. And I have no idea who it is and who it's going to be, but that is the only logical explanation. And I guess the overreaction right there is that like Lakers going to make it win or lose this postseason, regardless of how far they go. They got a big deal coming and a big star or impactful star coming to Los Angeles this offseason.
No, that's a great point too. Like it's probably more of an incomplete than it is what were you doing? Why didn't you go through with this trade? Like, I think you're right. I think there's more to come, and they felt better about like taking their time instead of forcing a deadline deal. Like that is probably the realistic answer of why we haven't found out more.
I'll ask you though, if they have Mark Williams right now, let's just assume he's as healthy as he was. And we can play the what if game forever, but I am really curious to think if he was on this team right now, where do you have them? What do you think their ceiling would be if they had him instead of Jackson Hayes or him and Jackson Hayes? Because that's how the deal would have been.
Yeah, that's a good question, because like how much does Mark Williams actually raise your ceiling? Like specifically in this series, I feel like it would help them a lot just with Rudy and they got Nas and they got, Julius Randle's a big body. Like they could use a reliable big in this series. Like Dorian Finney-Smith is doing everything that he can. Like, they got like same with Jared Vanderbilt doing everything that he can to try and make up for the lack of size that they have down there. So I do think specifically in this series, it would help them a lot. I don't know how much I would really say that it would raise their ceiling overall. Like I think they would still be a title contender the same way that I think they're still somewhat a title contender right now. You know what I mean? It's more just like, we saw what Luka did with Gafford and Lively last year in the playoffs and how much that opened up everything for the Mavs offensively. And that made life easier for PJ Washington, who was looking like Ray Allen at times in the playoffs. Like that made it made life easier for everybody around Luka. So like to have a lob threat, and Mark Williams isn't the level of athlete that like Lively and Gafford are.
He's like 7'1".
He's still right, yeah. And he's got like a 100-foot wingspan or something like that. Like his standing reach, he can like dunk without leaving his feet. Like just having a guy like that is just overall better than Jackson Hayes, I think would make the Lakers a lot more dangerous right now. And to your point, maybe they do go back and find a different deal that is better for what they need than Mark Williams, but like it's hard to believe that he would make them better right now.
Yeah, and that's the last point I'll have on that, because we could play the what if game, whatever. But thinking about how Jackson Hayes is, and he's played off the floor or whatever, and I have nothing against him, but still, this is also him looking better because he's playing with Luka and LeBron. So thinking about Mark Williams with the LeBron, even LaMelo has had that effect on him at times in Charlotte. So the other thing is whoever and I think the big thing and the big mistake, bigger than that, which, is maybe a bit of a head scratcher, I think that they should have released Alex Len if he's not going to be in the rotation anyway. Christian Coloco could have gotten a look. And why is my man from UAB's name escaped me right now?
Trey Jemison.
Trey Jemison.
Yep.
One of those two guys, just to be a different look, because I'm not saying Alex Len is unplayable, but he's unplayable basically at this point, or at least for what the Lakers need in the modern day game. He's unplayable. He's unplayable. And I think that Coloco or Jemison at least is a threat to maybe put them in the rotation. Just give them 5 or 6 minutes, especially in a series like this. Tough draw. If it was a different series, if it was the Warriors, we would be talking about different issues or whatever, but that could come back to bite them if they have something else up their sleeve for this summer trade wise. Releasing and elevating a guy to a standard deal would have been easy. And I don't know the finances behind it, but you're talking about the difference between a first round exit and maybe a trip to the Western Conference Finals. I think the price is worth paying.
Yeah. And that's like an interesting part too. And we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but like, this is just kind of the flow of the conversation. Like if they get to that next round, if they win this first round series against the Wolves, which I feel like is a complete toss up at this point, the same way that Warriors Rockets is a complete toss up, but like if they get to that next round, like the not having a true big man will not be as glaring against Golden State because they like to play small with Draymond at the 5 anyway, where like Houston, like Ime Udoka has already shown a willingness to like go double big lineup to try and make the Warriors uncomfortable. Sengun
what year
Adams.
Is this?
What year is this? And two, like, how are the Lakers going to handle that? Because like Jared Vanderbilt could be wearing like, a weighted vest and he's still like half the amount of weight that Steven Adams is and Alperen Şengün is. So they're going to have their hands full even more. And like, that's where JJ Redick, this is like, he plays a big factor in finding the right game plan to like navigate their shortcomings and how they can exploit other teams trying to exploit their shortcomings. And that's the beautiful chess match that is the playoffs. But, again, it's to bring it all full circle. It's like, I still just don't understand, like in this season immediately, how like they didn't think that it would have been better to have Mark Williams on this team right now to maximize as much as you can of LeBron, what's left of LeBron, while also at the same time maximizing Luka's first year in LA.
Yeah, I think ultimately the last thought on that is that it's just another reminder that they are just like, we're taking the long-term approach. And if we can do anything with LeBron, nice to have. But this is about the instead of the 5-month plan, looking at the 5-year plan. And that's why Rob Pelinka got an extension and he will be making decisions in Lakerland. Pretty crazy to think that, where they were with the Russ trade and how they've come back and recovered from that. A big shout out to Nico Harrison for kind of making that possible. But they're in a really good spot right now and whatever the next 5 weeks happens with them. But 5 years down the line, we'll talk about Luka Doncic and what he's doing with the LA Lakers. Thanks for checking out NBA Sound System Canada on YouTube. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe below and find us wherever you get your podcasts. And on Instagram, we have weekly episodes and bonus content throughout the week.